If I'm giving you 1 lakh rupees as a salary and you're on 30% tax bracket, simplifying things, you will get 70,000 in your account. But you can tell the company, don't give me that 1 lakh rupee, buy a TV worth 1 lakh rupee and give it to me. So this is the perquisite calculation.
Now with the new taxation laws, it's become slightly more difficult to save taxes.
I think people concentrate too much on taxation. When people start feeling bad about this, they start trying to find loopholes. They attract consultants, they try to do grey stuff, and then they land in soup. Never do that. Capability-wise, most founders are not as capable as their team.
I want to be the dumbest person in the room.
Somebody who walks into a room and he's already the best person in the field, then you have a person who will not grow with the company. So either you've hired a superstar which will have ego problems, or you've hired a person who is illusional.
Vardhan, as a founder, what are you looking for when you're hiring?
You don't get promoted because people see promise in you. You get promoted because you're already doing the work that you will be required to do as you're promoted. I've never seen a successful investor who is investing with their own might. The best investment is your career growth.
What do you mean by that? Is it just work or added skills, more education?
Whatever gets you more salary.
Vardhan, you have written, when I was an employee, my expectations from my employer in the order of preference were 1, I should be the dumbest person in the room. 2, good ESOPs in case it was a startup. 3, I spend a lot of time in office, so an encouraging workplace, obviously. 4, thoughtful and caring leadership and colleagues. Niceness over talent. And number 5, pay that helps me concentrate on the job. This is a lovely post and I resonate so much with it because this is literally the mantra for building a great startup to work. Like literally, this is the blueprint. I would love to hear from you from a founder lens. Like, what do you mean by all of this? What do you mean by all these constructs? And also, just like a framework that other founders can implement at their startup when they're starting up.
I've written more about, say, Market Intelligence, which was my first startup job as well, recently. And the great thing about that place, which I loved and which has stayed with me over the year, is that this was a startup and I had access to the founders. And access to founder does not mean that they used to sit in the same office nearby, which is a small startup anyway, everybody could. But also the respect with which they used to treat my dumbest question. So accessibility is not physical accessibility. It's about not feeling small in front of an accomplished leader who is operating as a founder. And, because this is a myth around founders that founders knows a lot. A founder has some secret sauce through which he has been able to raise funds, and they definitely know something which not everybody knows. Most founders are good salesmen, high-risk folks. They have a conviction and obviously they have capabilities with varying degree. Capability-wise, most founders are not as capable as their team if the startup is good, which means that they would actually hire someone who's better than themselves in particular fields. Yeah. And so usually speaking, they should be curious enough, and because they are not the best in their field, they should be humble enough to answer any question from the lens of learner. And if you're doing that, that is good for your startup, and that's great for people to feel open. So I keep having these sessions, one-on-one sessions with folks. It's a 20 people team right now. And so I was talking to one of my senior engineer, and I asked him that, look, I know this is a long time for you. You spent more than 2 years with us. So if you are looking to move on, let me know. We'll plan accordingly and I'll help you. And he said, no, Vardhan, I'm not looking to move on. I'll tell you if I'm planning to move on. He said, no, I love the environment here, and I get free hand to ask you a lot of questions, and sometimes to do things that we want to do, which might not fit the core mission of the company at that point of time. So I think that freedom which comes with that open environment, and more importantly, because there are no layers of hierarchy yet, the alignment is super easy to get. The founders set the goal of the company, and everybody needs to follow that. Once you have one layer of hierarchy, the person does not always have alignment with second layer, because he or she wants the promotion, and this person wants to get as much work done by their minus ones. The minus ones do not have as much clarity on what they will gain from that work. So this pull results in misaligned incentives and therefore pressure building as soon as the layer comes. So smaller teams in that way are great. I'm not sure what we will do if once we reach 100, 400, 500 people. At that point of time, I might not be able to control this environment fully. But I believe you should keep hiring folks of a certain nature, of a certain kind. This percolates. So I think it's about hiring.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. No, it's just doing the same, right? I mean, like you said, you hire, um, you create people who are exactly aligned to you, and then it's up to them to run the show because you won't be able to control. Cool. I want to double click on one thing, and I firmly believe in this. That's literally one of the things I look at when I make a decision to whether I join the company or not. It's I want to be the dumbest person in the room because this is super important. From a lens of anyone, like from a lens of anybody who's maybe starting out also. Uh, what do you mean by that? Like being the dumbest person in the room?
In fact, we have an internal document we call Tortoise SOPs, and I share it with everyone who I interview, and before they say yes, so that they know what kind of expectations we have at the thing. And two important points. One is that um, you should feel motivated to impress your peers with your work, and second, maza aana chahiye.
Okay.
So these both of these are important because two things. One is that if you're not interested in impressing your peer, you obviously do not respect them. Okay. Which means you're operating at the same competence level that you came with. You're not trying to achieve more. And somebody who walks into a room and he's already the best person in the field that they are trying to get into, or they consider themselves to be best in everything, then you have a person who will not grow with the company. And so either you've hired a superstar, which will have ego problems, or people will not be able to learn from them, or you have hired a person who is delusional. And so I think this is super important that both as a company that is building that bar raiser culture, uh, from the hiring side, you should have people who are driven by the desire to impress others. Because if you flip this statement, what it means is that you are hiring the dumbest person, which is not true. You're not hiring the person who will be the dumbest. You're hiring the person who's the smartest. But his
Yeah.
willingness to improve himself and his respect for the kind of people he's surrounded with should make them feel that they should strive for more. I think starter is only one mode, speed. And speed comes with taking bets and being good in taking those bets probabilistically. And that requires you to continuously improve.
And how are you checking this? Whether they actually have this? They have this competency within themselves that they want to impress.
I think assignment is the single biggest thing that I've seen which reflects this. In almost all the cases that we have hired people, we have given them assignments, and people who take pride in their craft, none of the thing that they create, it's their signature on that outcome. They would not let anything of bad quality go out from their desk or computer. And so either you don't respect the company you're interviewing with if you're half-assing your output or your assignment, or you are incapable. In both the cases, it's a no. You provide a complete input, all your juice into that assignment, and it shows. And some of the best hires that we have done are people who have poured their soul in that kind of assignment. And they have also done that later on when they joined us.
I love that you say that because this goes against the narrative that's going on today on LinkedIn, where people preach that companies make you do assignments and for khud use kar leta hai in the company. I'm sure like that's not true. Nobody gives an assignment that they'll use in the company. Right? But no, I'm also a firm believer of assignments myself.
So,
Cool.
Ranat, for that, I have a specific sort of way to deal with this. First of all, we give a problem that we are facing today. So, because that person will join and will have to deal with that problem today. Okay. And in a lot of cases, we tell them that if you want to charge us, depending on what role we are hiring, we will pay up to 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees of Amazon vouchers for simply completing this assignment.
Awesome.
But we offer this to someone who has already created a certain bar. So everyone gets that
Hmm.
offer. But when we sense that the person is not feeling at ease, because best people are also people who are in great demand. So if somebody is
Hmm.
getting them a yes without an assignment versus somebody saying कि पहले assignment करो and then I will make a decision,
Hmm.
we have to make that easy for them. So we try our
Hmm.
best to make it easy. It's difficult to hire as a startup who has high bar, uh, but
Hmm.
we try our best.
No, worth it. Hiring slow is better than hiring fast and then firing fast, which is what happened in 2020, 21. I'll read out another something. I think it ties to what we are talking. It goes like cultivating curiosity is the most powerful first step towards self upgrade. Curiosity leads to questioning, questioning leads to depth, depth leads to humility, humility leads to motivation, motivation leads to performance, performance leads to likability, likability leads to opportunities, opportunities leads to achievements. um, why I bring this up is, one, because I would love to get your mind space on what do you mean by this, and second, how are you cultivating this in your organization. And I ask this because this is a big problem today where we're going with AI. If one is not curious, one will really fall behind, right? Because curiosity is honestly like, it's going to be a moat. Person who's curious is going to win.
I think I read from Kunal Shah back in 2016 or something, long back, and I used to follow him, and he said that curiosity is the most important trait or something like that. And I said,
Hmm.
yeah, random generic cookie क्या नहीं तो मतलब कई curiosity
It
is
does.
health बोल दोगे आप, and then tomorrow you'll say that intelligence is the best trait and all that. I did not realize that it's only after spending time. So first is that you, in order to appreciate gold, you have to spend time among gold. If you've not spent time with super amazing folks, and these people are not
Hmm.
found easily. Once you spend the time, you realize that there's a clear distinction between how people approach general life and work and how these super achievers achieve that approach their life, generally speaking. And in almost all the cases, these people are super motivated to know what's going to change the world, what's going to have an impact on their life and life around them. And I'm not sure if if curiosity is a trait that can be pushed by saying that you should be curious. It's a trait that you have internally since childhood in most cases. And in cases where you don't have that, you either are super confident, which is overconfident, that you know everything,
Hmm.
or you're complacent and you don't know how the world is going to screw up very quickly if you don't
Hmm.
upgrade yourself. And in both the cases, you're probably not a great hire. Now, there is a varying degree of curiosity. And what we do is that we have these thoughtful Thursdays in our company
Okay.
where we take up topics and people they talk about that topic from the sources that they have referred to in the last 1 week. So, for example, recently we had t-shirts as a topic. T-shirt is such a simple product. And I have exclusively when I buy a t-shirt brand, I buy 7 pieces of that at least so that I can wear one of them each day. And so I discovered Mastery a year ago or something, and I keep buying Mastery. I simply love how excellent the t-shirts are. So I went and read why they feel so great. I posted and somebody from my team said that, but t-shirts cause a lot of pollution. I said, I did not even think about all these things. And then he mentioned that how cotton t-shirts take a lot of water and so on. And so these thoughtful Thursdays have sort of become a great source of people to learn about the topic without having to spend that amount of time. Because I would have spent 1 hour, but I get a jnana worth, say, 10 people are participating 10 hours worth of jnana in that half an hour of, during lunch discussion. So some of these activities. And I think just as
Hmm.
founders, if you come into the room and you start talking about, have you heard of this? People automatically become curious. So you have to have that
Hmm.
confidence and culture of positivity where you can start talking about these things at random without disturbing, of course.
Hmm.
And I think that's the subconscious level at which we generate chemistry.
Hmm. That's an interesting idea. Just randomly talking. Okay. Okay. Follow up question to this: is there any way you figured out how you can judge for curiosity while you're hiring?
There are a few hiring softwares that let you assign traits on which you want scoring done. And I remember
Okay.
that when I was creating a scoring metrics scorecard for hiring, I put up as curiosity, and then I had to think about ways on which I will measure. And these are obviously not scientific. I'm not a trained HR, so my method might be completely wrong. But I used to insert a random, for example, random uh, words or concepts in between of conversation I would have with the candidate. For example, I'll talk about that, Rana, the new LLMs are basically trying to solve for eukaryotic cell phagic space, and it will have a great impact. I think if I talk a couple of times more about this, any sane person would actually ask that, what are you talking about? It sounds interesting or something. It's bad method simply because sometimes people would not want to disturb you or break the flow. They would not ask these things. But I try to create an environment where people are in a conversation. And if you're not asking a lot of questions on the topic that we are doing, then that means that either you're being polite or you're not curious. So that is one way I used to judge at that point of time. And then generally speaking, I think the best way is to understand what they have as other hobbies. A curious person would always have hundreds of different topics that they will be interested in. So a person I hired for customer success recently, young girl, 23, 24 years age, completed masters and from Agra and came here. And I kept talking for half an hour once she joined the office. And then she saw that there's a Demon Slayer set kept on the bottom of my book rack. She told me 10 different animes I should watch, and she started discussing that. And so it's entertainment, so it's not a lot of curiosity involved there, but then she said certain insights. And then I asked her, can you speak Japanese? And she started to speak in Japanese.
Okay.
We never knew. The reason is that if you're reading manga, if you're watching Japanese anime, they don't translate that in English, most often than not. Anybody who is curious enough would want to learn Japanese. And she was, I found the perfect candidate. So I think that also shows curiosity.
All right.
Yeah.
Mint quoted you on phone laptop leases as one hidden benefit employees can still unlock under the new tax regime. But then using that as context, two parts to this. One, what does Tortoise do that they quoted you?
Right.
And two,
Right.
what is this benefit that Mint is talking of?
Right. So I'll shift the order of the question. What is
Sure.
this benefit? This is not actually a benefit. This is a way for you to request your employer to provide you with devices that are needed for work. So under
Yeah.
Indian income tax laws, anything that the employer gives you in cash or in kind is considered as taxable income. If today an employer gives you 1 lakh rupee cash and also pays your rent for your house because it's in the company's name and gives you accommodation, the price of the accommodation will be considered as taxable perquisite. So that needs to be also taxed, and your TDS will be deducted on that amount as well. Your company can give you a TV or a sofa set, and that will also be taxed in the value of those assets. And there are calculations according to different category of goods now. So anything that the company will give you for your personal use will be taxed. Now, if the company can claim and can verify that whatever they are giving it to you is for work, for example, if your company gives you this amazing expensive mic for your podcast, it will not be considered as taxable perquisite. I'm just saying that. Okay. And so now this becomes gray zone. Company can claim that this is for work, and employees can basically convert a portion of their salary into these expenses. So if I'm giving you 1 lakh rupees as a salary and you're on 30% tax bracket, simplifying things, you will get 70,000 in your account. But you can tell the company, don't give me that 1 lakh rupee, buy a TV worth 1 lakh rupee and give it to me. So now instead of receiving 70,000 rupees cash, I receive a TV worth 1 lakh rupee. So the income tax department will come and say that I'm not dumb. It is a perquisite. It's not salary, but it is a perquisite. It is valued in market at 1 lakh rupees. So you will have to pay 30,000 rupees from your pocket. So this is the perquisite calculation. And that's why companies don't do this. However, there are three categories of goods which income tax has defined that we understand that these things will be required for work. So if this is given by the employer, this will not need such a high scrutiny of whether they are given for work or not. Because the income tax department understand that these things are primarily for work. The first category is car. So car lease programs
Okay.
or car provided to officers, both in government and non-government organizations, they are not considered to be perquisites. They are considered to be a transport mode given to the officer for work. There's two
Okay.
categories next to it is you can be given laptops and computers and it will not considered to be a taxable perquisite. And the third thing that
Okay.
the income tax department says that any expense done by the employer on phone, including mobile phones, will not be considered as taxable perquisite because it is
Okay.
understood that in the current workforce, phones, since forever, are required for businesses to run the business. Okay. Now, what
Yes.
happened was in the IT boom, everybody get a laptop from the employer. At that point of time, mobile phones were not there, so popular. So as a culture, as a practice, all the employers in India and mostly across the world, they do give a laptop to their employees when they join the work. However, because it never started that way, people started buying their own phone, then started installing the email clients or Slacks or all of these softwares to be able to be in touch with their colleagues, to call the clients, to manage different workflows. Uh, they started using their personal phones, which
Mm.
you buy from that post-tax salary. So what we said is
Mm.
that if we make it easy for the employers to offer work phones to their employees, then the employees will not have to buy the phone from their post-tax salary. And the employers who have already given money or already set a CTC of, say, for example, 1 lakh rupee, they will not want to spend more for a mobile phone just because we said that you should get mobile phones. So in that case, what we are simply proposing is that instead of giving 1 lakh rupee in cash, which, for example, Ranak would only get 70,000, why don't you pay for the phone, which costs 1 lakh rupee in rents, not as an asset? It's a complicated topic. You pay for the phone, and so Ranak will get the value of that whole 1 lakh rupee instead of 70,000 rupees in cash. And so in this way, the
Okay.
company enables you to use our official device by optionally by marking a deduction in your salary. So by marking a deduction in your salary, you
Okay.
don't have to pay tax on the deducted part. And the deducted part is worth more than the the in-hand salary. And so you get benefit out of that. So this is the concept. It's not something that you can go and propose to your company and start getting it. It's not something that you can do on your own. The company has to has a
Hmm.
program in place. Now the companies would not do it because it's very complicated. You need a leasing company, you need various suppliers, you need a way to collect what phones employees want, you need a supply chain, you need a insurance, and you need a finance reconciliation reporting structure. So Apple launched this program at PwC in Deloitte 2, 3 years ago, and it was a huge success. But when it was proposed for other corporates, they said that we can't do it until there's a platform that can help them run this. And so that's
Okay.
where I think we completely fit in. Our platform, Tortoise, enables employees and employers to take benefit of this whole program without having to do a lot of things on their own. So we connect with the HRMS to assess your eligibility. We have supplier on the
Hmm.
back end, we have leasing company on the back end, we have insurance on the back end, and we provide customized report to finance, to payroll, to HR, to everyone. What it does is that
Hmm.
once you decide to implement this program, we help you set up everything, and then seamlessly employees can start requesting a work device from their employer, and the same adjustment will be made in their salary under all the compliances and record keeping that is required. That is done by us. So Tortoise enables employers to offer work devices which are tax free to their employees, resulting in up to 40% of savings for the employees.
Got it. So this is all good till I'm in the company. What happens when I
Right.
decide to move on? Right. What happens to my asset?
Right. So this is a 1 year or a 6 month program. So the company rents the
Okay.
asset for 6 months or a year's time. And after the lease tenure end, the phone becomes yours. So it's your personal property post that. And so anyway, if you're in the company and the company has launched a 1 year program, after 1 year, the asset transfers to the employee from the leasing company directly. The employer is not involved in that transaction. So therefore
Okay.
there's no perquisite on that. And so the employee buys this asset for a residual value of 1 rupee, 1%, 2%, and that is determinable. But for example, a 1 lakh rupee phone, you can pay 2,000 rupees to purchase it at the end of the 12 months lease. And then you can sell it off. You can gift it to your family. You can do whatever you want with that thing. For the period of 1 year, it's a work phone which you have to use primarily for work. But
Got it.
which is what you already use. Your work device is primarily your personal device is primarily used for work.
I'm sure a lot of folks listening in are listening in and understanding this for the first time. What has stopped us in India for this to go mainstream? Is it mainstream in US? Maybe US laws are different, but India, mein, what's stopped us from every company adopting this?
So first of all, implementing this is a nightmare. Now imagine you're a
We can
company who
imagine. Yeah.
decides to give phones to the employees. Okay. Say for example, take Work India as an example. You have 1,000 people in your company and you want to launch this program. What would happen? First, you would say, okay, the company will pay a leasing company because the employer does not want these assets on their books. It becomes
Yeah, of
messy.
course. Of course.
So they want a leasing company to rent it for them. Okay. So you first sign a leasing agreement with the leasing company. A leasing company would want you to share the order list in every
Yeah.
few days, every week. Now, how will you collect the order? So you will have to go to the suppliers to get the listing of all the phones and their prices. You'll have to do the calculations, which will determine the interest cost, the price of the insurance, and the resulting rentals, which will be deducted from the salary of the employee. How will you present it? Now, even if say you have presented it, you've created an Excel, who will explain this to people? Okay, they've understood this. Now, once they want this, how will you collect the order? Once you've collected the order, who will approve this? So all these steps are so meticulous and so difficult for a normal company to put a
Yeah.
lot of manpower into it, then it simply becomes a hassle. Now we identified that this is the need of the day, this is the need of the hour, and we stepped up and we created this platform that takes away all these problems from the employer. So I believe once Tortoise, and Tortoise is a pioneer in that, and now we have 2, 3 competitors coming up. And even one of the largest conglomerates and business houses in India is trying to do that through some of their subsidiaries. This is going to go big stream. And the expectation from the
It should.
employees by default would be to get a mobile phone from the employer. And once that starts happening, then this software will be required by everyone.
And for folks listening in, mostly the audience is going to be from the people function. Uh, I'll leave Tortoise and Vardhan's credentials below. If nothing, just reach out, have a conversation, and understand whether this fits
Right.
in. Because honestly, it's our job, as because the payroll function also rolls up to us. It is our job to give the best, right? Give the most amount of money back to our folks in the most legal and ethical manner. Thanks for sharing this. I hope even if one person hears this and implements it, I'll consider the job well done. Staying on the same track, Vardhan, now with the new taxation laws, right, it's become slightly more difficult to save taxes. How would you advise folks now with the new laws in place? Uh, Ideas like this that you can go and save taxes, and please tell me from the lens of both an employer and an employee, because a lot of it is driven by the payroll team, right? So if the payroll
Right.
team can take something that you're saying and implement it, and that'll be super. Versus also on the employee side, you guys should actually go and just tell HR. It's not always that HR knows everything, right? If you propose something, people will listen to you.
The whole purpose of new tax regime was to provide as much benefit by the government itself so that you don't need to save taxes. If you look at it,
And
the
that's true.
amount of
Yeah.
taxes you would have saved in the old tax regime is already saved without you having to go through the hoops and circles of doing this investment, bringing these receipts, HRA and everything. It's now simple. The salary is taxed at a much lower rate. In fact, I used to think that I will never switch to new tax regime. But this year, after 12.75 lakh rupees sort of this thing and new slabs being defined, my payroll software suggested that at your rent that you're giving, now you are better off in new tax regime. I would pay less tax than if I would have chosen old tax regime, take everything under the assigned things that I can declare, I can invest, and I can pay rent on. I still would pay more rent in the old tax regime. So first, foremost point is that people don't have to necessarily look at saving taxes and the new tax regime. The whole point of the new tax regime is to not to go through these hoops and loops. So that's one underlying principle that people should understand, because there's a limit to which you should be burdened with the need to save tax. Um, the second point is, now what are the avenues left? Okay. There are absolutely no avenues left for an individual to do it until you are an independent freelancer or consultant, because you're seen as a business. And when there's a business, you have an income and you have an expense. And so your profit is taxed. But when you're an employee, your whole income is considered to be taxable. That's the difference in outlook. And so therefore, individual consultants or business owners or freelancers can save considerably higher amount of tax than a salaried individual in India. Now, salaried individual in India does not have any avenue to tax save. Individually, they can't do anything. From the employer point of view, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. There are only three benefits that are left now, largely speaking. First is the NPS. So, National Pension Scheme, you can request your employer to deduct some part of your in-hand salary and contribute to your NPS account. And that is not taxed. So that limit is up to, I think, 7.5 lakh rupees. Please check the actual sources for actual limits. But I think the limit is 10% up to 7.5 lakh rupees that the employer can contribute on your behalf that will not be taxed. The problem with this is that not a lot of people are very concerned about NPS investment, because it's locked. You can't access it until 6 years of age. And even then, you can't have a lump sum. There's a limit to every withdrawal. And so people don't like this. So it's there, but it's not very popular. The second is you can get a car lease from the companies. Some of the companies I know have done very, very beautiful car lease model where the company itself buys the car and give it to the employee. And instead of a third party extracting interest on that lease, they charge the employee the same amount they would have earned in the treasury or deposits. So if the company would have kept like 10 lakh rupees in their fixed deposit, they would have made 78%. So they're losing that by buying a car asset today. So they would charge that to the employee. Employee is happy because they would have paid the same interest if they would have taken a loan. So employee is not paying anything extra. And company now have an asset. And the employee can then save tax on that as well as other allowances that comes with car, driver allowance, fuel allowance, and so on. And that becomes useful because the company have now also gotten a depreciation benefit of that asset, which is on their books. So if done right and it's a fairly complicated bit, we will probably end up solving with Tortoise itself. But if the company has some cash and the risks can be covered and legalities can be put in a box, this is the second benefit that can be much easier. Obviously, there are car lease companies that can do it for you, slightly higher cost for the employee. And the third is what we are doing, device. Now, car lease penetration is less than 2%. Not everybody would be interested in that. You buy a car once in 7, 8, 10 years time. And you don't always want to be stuck to a company because then you have to be there for 3 years at least, 3 to 5 years. So I think, Ranak, what I mean to say is that Tortoise is probably the only benefit that can be meaningfully availed by companies on the new tax regime.
No, but it's fair. By the way, like the amount of interest in cars, car lease is insane. So everybody in my company who in the last 1 year bought a car, everybody came to me and said, myself included, they came and said, please take a car lease allowance because the benefits is massive. It's not a small amount; it's huge amounts. Again, staying on that thread. let's move to something that's very pertinent. Again, my audience is folks listening in largely from the startup world. One of the things that attracts people is ESOPs, right? It is the promise of a golden promise in the future, your retirement broadly. The taxation ESOPs, but that is still very gray. People are very confused when the taxation happens. What's the tax event? And what are the laws today at this point in time around taxation on ESOPs?
So, Ramesh, it's a fairly complicated topic, and I would want to put a disclaimer that even I don't understand it that well. Having said that, there are certain fundamentals that as a founder, I inquired when I was setting the ESOP for my company. And I remember that as a concept, fundamental concept, I can tell you.
Sure.
Please do talk to a CA for actual professional advice. So basically, ESOPs are nothing but a promise from the company that you will be able to buy the shares of the company at a certain exercise price, irrespective of the current market price of the shares at the time of exercise. Okay. So, for example, you're in HDFC Bank, and HDFC banks give you ESOPs at a certain exercise price. Say that exercise price is 100 rupees. Okay. Very bad example. I'm sure HDFC Bank shares price is much more. So, you got the exercise price of 100 rupees, and HDFC Bank, for your position, has given you, say, 10,000 shares worth 10 lakh rupees, 100 rupees each. And this is the ESOP that they have given you. What it means is that you can, at once this is vested and under the terms and conditions of the stock plan, and because it's a listed company, SEBI would have certain restrictions, you can exercise it and you will be able to purchase the stock, the share of the company at 100 rupees. Now, the market might be valuing that SDFC stock at 500 rupees at the point of you exercising that, which means what you're essentially doing is you're exercising that ESOP and you're buying at a promissory price of 100 rupees an asset that is valued in the market at 500 rupees. So, which means that you can now buy this 10 lakh rupee का आप पैसे दोगे, आपके पास you will get those 10,000 shares. So the market price of those 10,000 shares is now 50 lakh rupees, which is 500 multiplied by 10,000. So you will pay 10 lakh rupees today, and tomorrow you will sell it for 50 lakh rupees. So you have gained in one day 40 lakh rupees of profit.
Yeah.
It's a short-term gain. Okay. It's a short-term gain that you have exercised, and therefore you'll be taxed at the income tax slab level. If you're in 30% tax slab, you'll be taxed at this price. So 40 lakh ka 30% आपके को लग जाएगा, surcharge and all these more. Now imagine you do not sell these stocks right away. You sell these stocks after 2 years time. Then this 40 lakh should ideally be considered as a long-term capital gain,
Long-term.
which is taxed in India at 15%. So you'll be taxed only 15% of that 40 lakh rupees gain. But there's one more concept where the government might say that even at exercising, you hold the asset worth 50 lakh rupees according to the market. Even if you have not realized it, the moment you bought an asset which is valued at 50 lakh rupees in the market, you bought it for 10 lakh rupees, you have essentially gained this 40 lakh rupees. And I think this is the gray zone which everybody is concerned about, whether you are taxed at exercise or whether you are taxed at sales, sell period. Now, in most startups, coming back, this event is always coupled because your exercising period is usually long. For example, in our company, the exercising period allowed is 10 years after the allocation, which is way too long. It's as good as it gets. So which means that even after somebody has gotten the stock today, even if my company has a liquidation event after 7 years, they will still be able to exercise it, get the stocks, and then sell it. And that period would be small, and so they will be taxed at this level. However, so then again, the same kind of complications can come here as well. But this is the fundamental concept of taxation on ESOPs.
Got it. If anyone is broadly having this problem, then it's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem.
Because
First
that's
of all,
yeah,
I think I think people concentrate too much on taxation. You know,
yeah.
life is much simpler. Um, yeah. First of all, people should not worry about saving taxes. They should simply contact a CA or an expert in this field, and they should help them. When people start feeling bad about this, they start trying to find loopholes. They attract same kind of consultants. They try to do great stuff, and then they land in soup. Never do that.
Uh, I'll read out another quote of yours. And I found this very interesting. It was a long post, but I'll summarize. You wrote that I got 6 to 7 lakhs worth of international flights for free after buying 5 lakhs of gold on Mintra vouchers.
Yeah.
Spend smarter, not more. Broadly, I want to just put forward one thing which I'm seeing a lot. People are very polarized on credit cards. Like credit cards is good, credit cards is bad, right? You've written that credit cards is useful if you are smart about it. What would you advise to someone who's just got a job, let's say 25, 26, doing okay? How would you look at credit cards? Should you take credit cards or not? And if you are, what's the principle you go by?
Right, it's like the same thing. Like, should you give a knife or a gun to a person? Is knife or a gun inherently, you know, violent stuff in itself? The problem is that people who are not in control can be very violent on their financial life. It's not about the time of your life. It's about the journey in your maturity about money. Uh, Credit cards are great. I love credit card. In Ranak, I got my first credit card in 2010 when I joined Citibank, and it was Citibank credit card. This is 15 years now, and since then I have never taken a credit, single rupee credit, except once when I got extra discount for taking a 6 months EMI when I applied, where I swiped it for that 600 extra discount or 4,000 extra discount. I had never taken a credit in my life. Uh, and I've
Wow.
enjoyed so much on these perks and points and all these things, which is most of the consultant breed, young consultants, they're crazy about these things. I was lucky to have one of our management consultant as I'm founder office. He came and he changed the environment of the office. He said, do this. I was already aware of that, but he got everyone new cards in the office. And most of us have never suffered from it. I think the suffering or the bad part of credit cards is usually for people who cannot cannot control how they spend money. Having a credit card does not lead me to spending more money. I know what amount of money I should be spending. Whether I spend it using my UPI, cash, or card is immaterial for a person like me. If that affects you, then you should not have a credit card.
You should not have a credit card, correct?
Yeah. The worst problem of having multiple credit cards was until 2018 was that you will forget
Cred?
to pay for one
Yeah.
of those.
Yeah.
Credit solve that. I have,
Yeah. That's what I say.
you can have 5 credit cards and credit will remind you, like, you can pay at one go on the app. Credit is single-handedly responsible for me to opening up to having multiple. I also have Swiggy credit card, which gives me 10% discount on Swiggy. It was it was not needed. I just got it because credit will help me pay for the thing. I'll save 10%.
Yeah. So, okay. One thing, and this one is important. It's on the same thread of spending money wisely, right? So there's what's happening today is thankfully because of startups, there are good talented people who are getting good pay from a very early age. Now
Yes.
that leads to a lot of weird behaviors, but
Yes.
broadly, what would you advise somebody, right? Somebody who started out getting decent amount of pay at the age of 23, 24.
Yeah.
If you can start off, what should you do? What should you at least have in mind? Some principles on building long-term wealth. Because one thing I've seen, everybody is very clear that they actually want to build long-term wealth. Their short-term actions don't align with that, right? You
Right.
being a SEBI registered advice, again, this is not investment advice. This is just general
Right.
gyan, call it.
All right. So I've actually taken sessions not only in my company, but even in other companies with my founder friends where I've talked about this thing because they would have a lot more young audience who would earn a lot of money and would not know what to do with it. And My first advice is to have a PF account, okay, an NPS account immediately. In fact, in the old tax regime, uh, it would make sense for you to have a PF account as soon as you get a PAN card, which can be, for
But you
example, my
already have a
daughter's.
PF account, right? When you're joining the company, you get a PF account.
I'm talking no, so I'm talking about before that. So, for
Acha,
example,
okay.
I got my daughter's PAN card as soon as they were born. I mean, within a few days,
Okay.
and I then started their Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana account, which will mature when they're 18. Similarly, if I get them a PPF account, which I don't because you can only maintain money in either SSY or PPF. A public provident fund account, PPF account, is your own account. It's not linked to your
Yeah.
company's PF
Yeah,
account.
correct.
The PPF account also requires 15 years of investment before you can take money out of it. So the
Yes.
earlier
Yeah.
you create, the earlier you can start putting money in it. And if you're very savvy, your some of your money can go into your children's PPF account, and then they can enjoy the benefit of that PPF account higher interest rate, which is more than FTs when they are young. I advise everyone to get the best insurance they can get, both life and health insurance. That's the
100%.
minimum that you should do
Yeah.
as quickly as possible. I I always thought that I'll reduce my weight and get a life insurance at a lower rate, and I was screwed. I could not get a life insurance. Okay, I was denied, and so there was a mistake I did. By so, despite preaching this all life long, you should take a life insurance as soon as you start earning, of as much value as you can.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So once you're taking care of medical insurance, life insurance, and an account where you can't touch your money, which is NPS today, your baseline is set. You're 70% there. Now comes
Okay.
optimization part. The thumb rule is that you should, and this depends on the income as well. But if you're a middle class upbringing person, which 99% of us are already, and at that point, I would say that even with best of your expenses, the overall expense in a month's time should not cross 1 lakh rupee. 1 lakh rupee is the upper limit. Now, if you're making only 12 lakh rupees, this should go down considerably. But if you're making
Yes.
20, 25 lakh
Yeah.
rupees, then 12 lakh should be the upper limit, including the mobile phones expenses on all kind of expenses, fashion expenses, eating out expenses, travel expenses should not go beyond 12 lakh rupees. Anything above that should be safe. This is for people who are making ungodly starting amount of money, which is what most engineers are, if you're from these colleges. Apart from that, the thumb rule is that you should save at least 50% of your salary. If you're living at more than 50% of your salary, then you're setting yourself up for failure. So thumb rule is that your 50% salary should be saved. And that will set you up for success so that the corpus that you create will continue to support that lifestyle, even if you leave after 40, 45 years of age, stop earning. So I think that 50% rule is great. And if your salary is more than 25 lakh rupees, then anything above 12 lakh rupees is the most lavish 99% of the people should live in India.
And what do I do with this 50% that I'm saving?
Uh, Only one thing, put it in the index funds.
Yeah. Okay. Same
There's
thing. Yeah.
absolutely no brainer about it. In India, if we were in some other country, I would have said something, but India is poised to grow. The GDP growth would roughly match the market growth. And it's a no brainer, at least at this point of time. As soon as you hit, say, for example, if you hit 50 lakh rupees plus of corpus, which will take 5, 6 years, even at the best saving rates, probably 10 years for most people, then get IFL or Reserve or any one of the RC that does it. All of these portfolio management services, PMS is what they're called. Get one of them and simply give them the money to manage. They'll do it for you. Zero point in
Okay.
trying to buy stocks or get into investment. 0 point. I've never seen a successful investor who is investing with their own might and brain while doing a great work. The best investment is your career growth. That's it.
Okay. You said your best investment is your career growth. What do you mean by that? Is it just work or added skills, more education? What would you advise there?
whatever gets you more salary. Like if you're good in your current job and that's still in the market is valued, you will get. You don't have to upskill yourself. If, for example, if today if you're a machine learning engineer, you don't have to upskill yourself to get better jobs. So just maintain a fine balance between going deep in the company that you're working in and climbing up the ladder either through switch or promotions. If you're not in the core sectors that are growing, then definitely upskill yourself.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, I'll read out one more thing that you've written. Our first job doesn't come through a form you submit. It comes from the pipeline you build. The days of almost guaranteed effortless path from admission to final placements are over. But then, as a founder, what are you looking for when you're hiring, let's say, freshers or folks who are just very early in their careers?
The work that they have done to reach here. So um, I think Satya Nadella said, I might have quoted him somewhere, but he said that I did not wait to become the CEO to start behaving or working on things like a CEO. You know, and most people who are promoted, and even this is true in any kind of admissions, promotions, anything achievement related, you don't get promoted because people see promise in you. You get promoted because you're already doing the work that you will be required to do as you're promoted. You don't get selected in IIM because they discovered something in you. You get selected because you're already there. Okay. So people feel that there's a gap which they will achieve once they get promoted or they get selected or something. It's not. You're already at that level. And these events are just justifying your level that you've already leveled up. And so if you're a fresher, ideally you should have already done some good amount of efforts and outcomes, either in independent projects or creations or innovations that you should be able to showcase. Some of the best people we have hired, they were already either doing some sort of business. So I think genuine efforts just show. So if you've genuinely done good things driven by curiosity and need to improve yourself, it shows. So whenever I meet someone, a fresher specifically, they would take efforts in reaching out to us. They will they will showcase the stuff that they have done. So if you're good at it, I think somebody will see the value.
And also, what you said, it's just if you're interested, it shows, right? If somebody is really keen, they'll message you, they'll DM you, probably do something and show you, here's how I can get this work done. Versus, hi, please review my profile. I don't know why people do that. It just never works. I just feel like as many times I've just DM them back that seriously, like, do you really think someone's going to give you a job in this
Yeah.
market
Well,
with that statement? Yeah.
it's a failure as a society. You know, we have not invested enough resources and time into telling even the college students how the world works, how the economic works, how the businesses work.
That's
They
true.
don't understand that. Um, you'll be surprised at the vintage of the workers who joined IT in 2000s. Even today, after 20 years of experience, these are my colleagues. They don't even know what is the profit that their company made this year. What's the revenue that they made? They are so laser focused on कि पहले they used to get lecture, they used to get homework. Today they get assignments and they are focused on this. You have to understand wherever you are. You have to understand what the world is valuing. And if you don't understand that basic fundamental, there's no chance. There's no chance.
It won't be my show without bringing up AI in it, because that's something I always do, and I would want to bring this up with you because it's a different lens. It's a founder lens. How do you see the workspace, right? The world of work, the ways of working. How will it change? Let's say in the next 2 to 3 years when AI really gets leveraged.
Yet, honestly, I don't know. I've been as curious about this. I have some opinions that have been updated by listening to people who are much close to the heat at this point of time. And I frankly try to uh, think about the statements that these leaders have made. Like some leaders, and I'll not take name because they're all jumbled up in my head now. I can't
Hmm.
quote them as it is, but some people are saying that the more skilled people will get paid more, the less skilled people will be replaced by AI. And the other,
Hmm.
I think Jensen's principle or something similar sounding, which I wrote about in one of my posts, is the fact that as technology make things simpler, it does not reduce the it does not reduce the work in it. It increases the consumption. So people will simply start consuming more, and that will in fact result in more jobs in that case.
Hmm.
So both of these coins exist. If you ask me honestly, if I would have not read any of these stuff, I would have felt really, really alarmed. Um,
Hmm.
Now there's a hope, and I am probably not concerned too much about me personally in the world of AI. I'll probably find something valuable if this does not work. That's the overconfidence or confidence I had. But if I was starting at this point of time, I would be really concerned. Really concerned.
Hmm. And there's a way to work around that concern, right? Just get good at AI. I mean, just be very curious about AI, learn, leverage it, use it in your everyday work. Then at least you have a hedge against it. But then again, yeah, what if there is no entry level jobs? Then that's a bit of a
At no point in the history, a curious, capable person has found themselves in
hmm.
extreme bad situations, especially in a country like
Hmm.
India, which is growing, and in economies like if you're born in Syria, there's nobody can help you. Just an example.
Hmm.
If you're born in a country where the opportunities are not there at this point of time, you can't do anything. You're subjected. But if you're in a country where economy is not like completely stopped, then curious,
Hmm.
capable people will always find value to add. That's not the
Hmm.
problem. The problem has been that we have been through a huge boom of IT services over the last 20 years. And
Hmm.
even people who would not be getting any job in the normal world, they got the job.
Hmm.
That free lunch is over now. So what I'm saying is that people who are interested, curious, and capable, they don't wait for new wave to change behavior. They're always on that. I think the people who should be worried are the people who got the benefit of uh, this huge economic boom, which which pushed them into jobs which are paying well. I think the
Hmm.
problem is that.
Hmm. Okay, that's a hard hitting reality, I think, to end end this conversation on, because it's the truth.
Right.
It is the truth, and everybody sugarcoats it. I'm happy you're not
Yeah.
sugarcoating it, because I also keep saying the same thing. Do you, as a founder yourself, do you think it makes more sense for people to just go and start their own thing? Because there's so much leverage around the world
No,
today.
no, not at all.
Why not?
Not at all. So I think startup or starting up or doing business is a muscle that most people don't have. In
Okay.
fact, I would go as far as saying that if you come from a business family, and forgive me for saying that if you're coming from a Banya family or a Marwadi family,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
already have a lot of muscle that is natural muscle to
Hmm.
doing business because running business is a extremely tough roller coaster ride on emotions and mental well-being. And an
Hmm.
employee who has been accustomed of getting a salary and dependent upon a company to provide that salary by sorting out the business themselves, once you make them an entrepreneur, I think the kind of stress, the kind of this thing will lead to because the success rate is very low in business. It's
Hmm.
not a statistically right advice, and so the harsh truth is that
Hmm.
very few people make money in business. A blanket statement of saying that startup or start business is I think is very dangerous.
Hmm. Okay, I think that's a good reality check. Any last closing thoughts you want to share, and also where folks can find you, where they can find Tortoise, to the audience, the HR audience who's listening in.
Definitely. First, I would like to learn more and more from the current HR practices. I'm not from HR, so it is always good to learn more. So if anybody who is actually interested in this field and would like to donate a few minutes or half an hour to have a conversation with me, I would love to hear from them. I'm available at Vardhan at tortoise.pro, and my website is www.tortoise.pro. If you're rewards or benefits or a HR professional concerned about providing the best benefits to your organization, please do reach out to me on my website or Vardhan at tortoise.pro. Uh, be happy to hear from you. Even if we can't help you as a product or offering, I'm happy to suggest a few more things that you can do for your employees.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Vardhan. This was super useful. I'm sure at least someone who's going to take that away and realize, oh damn, I can do this at my company, and hopefully reach out to you and just just implement it, because it's just net positive for everybody. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Vardhan. Yeah.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you.